You're watching 16 News Now Digital Plus's 16 Sports Extra, brought to you by Gates Automotive.
Welcome into 16 Sports Extra. It's playoff time.
It's always been playoff time, dude. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I know, but now we're getting really into playoff time.
Like, it's championship season.
That's championship season. That's what I feel
We are
like
in
right
championship season. Yes.
Exactly. So
in both states, in both Indiana and Michigan.
Yes. That's what I mean. It just feels like everyone's finally hitting their stride around the area.
By the way, Jackson Neal.
Yes.
That's Jackson Neal. That's Sabrina Hoover, WNDU.
Thank you for...
And you're Austin Hough.
Austin Hough, South Bend Tribune, high school sports reporter / everything else in between.
There you go.
Yeah, I just want to introduce ourselves before people, maybe they have never watched before. They want to know our names.
Exactly.
There's no little graphics for their name. There's no graphics with their names on it. So I'm just trying to help the cause here.
Do you have a suggestion for that?
Yeah, I will put in a maintenance request, basically.
Sounds good. We can do that.
But yes, it is championship season. I don't mean to interrupt I did mean to interrupt, actually. But, it's good to have you back, Jackson. We missed you last week.
Nice to be back. Nice to be seeing all these games we got going on, all these championship games to have.
This is
we got a lot to talk about.
I feel like this is off the top of my head, obviously, I wasn't at the South Bend Tribune before last year. Like, last year was my first year, but 9 Indiana teams for our coverage, or 9 Indiana games for our coverage area coming up Friday night, and 1 Michigan game. I think that might be a record. It feels like there's a lot going on. The brackets fell perfectly for a lot of our teams to kind of get to finals, and we also have some good teams that helps the cause too. But yeah, this is a fun, busier than normal Friday night coming up. For the sectional championships on the line everywhere. So.
Yeah, we still have a full schedule going on, basically.
I know.
When I was putting it together this week, I'm just like, man, there's so many games we still got going on.
Yeah.
But before we jump into this week's games, let's just kind of take a look back at last week's matchups.
Yeah.
Austin, I'm going to start with you since, you're the big high school guy.
Am I?
You are the big high school guy. What really stood out to you the most, I would say, last week?
So I think the biggest result as far as the biggest takeaways for me were just one, to me, Northwood was my first thought was Nate Andrews did it again. These guys are insane. I'm writing about it this week, but they're on their 5th quarterback basically this year. Yeah. So, Micah Gerald starts the first 4 games. He gets injured in the 5th game against Northridge. Ryder Ransberger comes in, plays that game, starts Concord game, gets injured. They put running back Landon Perry in at quarterback, right? He plays a game and a half at quarterback. They bring up Braylon Monroe, the freshman, play against Warsaw, Goshen, and then Washington in the first playoff game. He starts the game against St. Joe. They were we're going to bring in Luke Kime anyway in the 3rd series. He's a transfer from Wawasee. He had to be eligible to play. He had to wait 365 days. So it lined up where first day he could play was Friday. Mm-hmm. And he gets in and he leads them to a road sectional victory in overtime, against a good St. Joe team. How do they keep getting? They can't keep getting away with this, right? You know what I mean? It's insane. Does not matter who plays for Northwood. Last year they had the state's leading passer in Owen Rader. Mm-hmm. This year they've played 5 different people. Technically, 6 people have thrown a pass. They've had a sophomore kid, Rains. I forgot. I should have looked up his first name, but Dylan D. Rains has thrown 3 passes in mop-up duty. Mm-hmm. So they have had literally 1 quarterback per win this year. They're 6-5, and they played 6 quarterbacks. It's remarkable. Kudos to, and 5 of them are eligible to come back next year. They're all sophomores, juniors. So it's remarkable what Nate Andrews and Northwood has done to be 6-5 and playing for a sectional championship. To me, that was my biggest takeaway from last week was they just did it again. They did it again. Here's Northwood sitting there in a sectional championship game once again.
Yeah. That's insane.
Yeah, it just feels like no matter what you do, no matter what's stacked up against them, it's at this time of year, it's the good teams just find a way.
Right. Did they benefit a little bit from the draw? Sure, but St. Joe was a good semifinal game.
Yeah, it was a really tough team.
St. Joe, Northwood, Plymouth, Mishawaka, those were the 4 best teams in that sectional, and sure, maybe they get the benefit of the doubt for not drawing Mishawaka in the semifinal. That's why we're still talking about them this week, but they still had to go beat a good team on the road, and they did it. It's incredible stuff, what they've done.
And we've seen how good St. Joe's defense has been, especially now in the postseason. So for them to get that big win over them is huge.
Yeah. Sabrina, what was your biggest takeaway? Anything stick out to you?
I think we'll get into Elkhart a little bit because I think that I have some thoughts on that. But I was at the Plymouth-Mishawaka game, and I will say that seeing Mishawaka obviously beat Plymouth 2nd time this season, I know, Mishawaka's been, I think the last game of the regular season, that was a really close 1.5 between those two teams. Mishawaka kind of pulled away later on in the second half, but this one was just dominant on Mishawaka's end. Like Landon Snyder, I think that was like his second or third touchdown of those highlights. He had like 4 or 5 in that game.
Yeah, finished with 4.
Yeah,
Yep.
4. He was like, it was like back to back. Like the student section was like chanting MVP on one of the touchdowns. Like he was just on it that night, and it just seemed like defensively as a whole, especially like obviously offensively, they put up numbers here and there, but defensively they just look dominant. And again, it's hard to beat a team twice. I know that's like high school, like anything can happen, but for them to be so dominant in this game, I think says a lot about who they are, especially who they are in the postseason, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree 100% with all that. I mean, they feel like they are playing the best football of anyone in the area right now. Just like relative to who they've played the last 2 weeks. Like Northridge was a really solid, scrappy kind of 3-6. I know they were 3-6, but they were still a solid, scrappy team. And Plymouth obviously was having this resurgent type of year. So to beat Northridge 23-10 and then Plymouth 41-14, like they've had the 2 best wins, air quote, like best air quote, like of the teams that have played at least 2 games so far, I would say. So, kudos to them. And Mishawaka Northwood at Northwood, just, I don't know, man, it just feels great. Like, it's like that should be a fun one, like Friday night. I know we're trying to stick to last week as much as possible, but we just talked about Mishawaka and Northwood. So let's just, rip that Band-Aid off. Like Friday night, Andrews Field, this would be great. Mishawaka beat them 35-19 earlier this year in Mishawaka. Both Snyder brothers had 2 touchdowns rushing in that game. So, obviously, Northwood had a different quarterback at the time. That was Micah Jarrell, still playing for Northwood. And now are they going to play Monroe? Are they going to play Keim? Are they going to play both? Like, they could play both. Like,
you can't, how do you even prepare for that?
Right.
How do you prepare for Northwood right now?
I think I'm going to ask Keith Kinder that this week, actually. So we'll see.
So that's a smart question.
SouthBendTribune.com if you want to read more about it. But yeah, I mean, it should be fun. And like Northwood's defense is playing well. Like they gave up only 13 last week to St. Joe, who had been playing well on offense. And, it should be just a fantastic game. And it's, I don't know, just 2 traditionally strong programs. Like, I don't know, just it's a great uniform. Like, I don't know. Like, it's like, I don't know, like it feels like Indiana high school football,
It feels like a November Indiana high school football.
Yes, this is like meant to, and it's it's just meant to be played November 8th.
That's what I mean. Like, it just feels like it's right. It's gonna be a little cold that night. I think it's gonna be like that feels like a game where. Yeah, it feels like this time of year.
I kind of wish they still had the grass, but we'll take the turf.
Exactly.
First year turfs for both teams. I wish this was like a muddy grass game.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the turf. I actually have not been out there to see it yet myself.
Northwood turf's nice.
Yeah,
and the Mishawaka turf's nice too. Both of them. But it's at Northwood.
Nice.
To avoid any confusion, it's at Northwood. So 7 p.m. Friday night.
There we go. Well, I want to actually, for my big takeaway, I want to go up north of the border. I want to go to Michigan because Niles had a huge result last week. They beat Paw 42-14, and it really wasn't even that close. They were just kind of doing it, running the football at will all night long, just kind of getting whatever they wanted to. Just such a dominant performance from the Vikings.
Look at the play fake was so good they juked out the camera guy. Whoever that camera guy is needs to get
camera guy, defense, everybody. Nobody
don't point out the camera people.
Hey, if you think fouling Niles is hard, Edwardsburg's worse.
I was gonna say, well, that's who they're gonna match up with. But just 2 weeks ago, we talked about Niles. We talked about them heading to play Paw, basically a huge game. Paw was undefeated at that time. Niles only had the 1 loss. It was like this big matchup. Niles goes on the road and they win 21-0. But then to come out in the playoffs now and not just win, but just kind of this statement win showed me a lot about Niles and just how good this football team is. Taking it down on an opponent like that in not just twice in one season, but double-digit wins back-to-back weeks.
Yeah,
that's so hard to do.
Weird. It's like they kind of did it last year too against Paw. Like it worked out where they played in week 9, and then they ended up playing week 11. So the district final, they were split on the semifinal games. But yeah, like Niles, I don't know, they just like live rent free in Pawpaw's head or something right now. Like they've done it 2 years in a row where they've beaten them in the the regular season finale to win the conference, and then they beat them again in the playoffs. And so. And now, Niles again. That Sam Rucker had a big game, but it could be Paul Hess. It could be there's 4 or 5 different guys that could beat you on that Niles rushing attack, which is really impressive. And now they get Edwardsburg, a rematch. Edwardsburg, that was probably the biggest Michigan takeaway for me. They were an underdog. They had to go to Battle Creek, Harper Creek. Battle Creek, Harper Creek. It's very, yeah.
You love that
Why
name.
don't you call it Battle Creek Harper?
Yeah, that could. It's like Fort Wayne.
Right. Yeah, I don't miss that. Writing that all the time. But yeah, like they went up to the Battle Creek and they were an underdog against a Battle Creek team that was 8-1 and controlled the entire game and won 29-8. Grady Ostrander had 177 yards rushing and a touchdown that kind of sealed it. Kudos to the Eddies because they lost. Their last loss was to Niles about a month ago. They had 6 turnovers in that game. 2 of them were turnover on downs, but I think they still technically count as turnovers, So rematch at Niles instead of at Edwardsburg now. It's at Niles on Friday night. Honestly, it should be a fun game. I mean, it was a fun one the first time they played. So, triple option both sides. So
that'll be over quick.
Keep that clock moving, baby. Yeah, over under 8:48 p.m. end time.
That's gonna be a quick one.
So kudos to Niles for 2 weeks in a row dominating a good Paw team. And now they get to play another conference foe that they're well aware of in Edwardsburg. And once again, it's setting up nicely for Niles. Like last year, they won the district championship. They hadn't won one in forever, and so, or ever. Actually, it might have been ever. Period. Not forever. I guess that counts too as forever. But yeah. So, and if they win, they would have another home game next week in the regional. So. Obviously, they got to get there first. Edwardsburg could easily win this game. Like exactly. I'm not counting Edwardsburg out at all. So, yeah.
Well, we're gonna get to that and more in terms of looking forward. But I first want to go through a couple more results from this past week. Yeah. Let's go back to Indiana, Class 6A. 2 teams playing locally there. Penn beating Lake Central 35-7. That's one result. Big win there for Penn. They're now moving on to play Crown Point. That's gonna be a tough one this Friday night.
Yes. Sabrina, you want any thoughts before I ramble for 5 minutes?
No, I mean most of my thoughts were going to come with the Elkhart game. So
okay, I will share my Penn thoughts. Brody Cashin, I was a little surprised to see. There he goes.
You say new quarterback.
I don't know what happened to Kellen Watson. I have not asked around too much. So I'm not going to speculate if it was whatever.
But great night for Brody.
13-17, buck 86 passing, a touchdown pass, a touchdown run. Tyshawn Bardo had a big game, 110 receiving yards. Jaden Parker had a big 2 rushing touchdowns, like one right here, and then they had another one later in the game. Look, Penn has talented players, and the defense was great. Vinny Freeman blocked a punt. They shut down they took care of business. Like there was a big take care of business game. Lake Central was definitely not as talented as them. So obviously it's a big challenge on Crown Point. Last year Crown Point beat Penn in the regional by 1. They blocked a last-second field goal attempt for Penn to win that game. Crown Point is probably better than they were last year, and Penn is not as good as they were last year. But when you have dynamic skill players like a Bardo, like a Parker, and now Brody Cashin potentially at quarterback, like they have a puncher's chance. I'm not going to say they're like, I'm not going to sit here and try to pick Penn to win this game, but like. They have talented players that can at least try to keep up with what Crown Point presents, both offensively and defensively.
Of course. And still, we'll see about the whole Kellen Watson situation. But, I mean, if you have that backup option, it's pretty good backup option.
I was going to say, he definitely put up some numbers.
Yeah, it was the week of the backup quarterback. Yeah. Northwood, Penn, just doing it. Yeah, I guess so.
Well, the other game in 6A, Sabrina, I know you have thoughts on this.
Oh, yeah.
So Elkhart lost to Fort Wayne Snyder 14-7. So the Lions season is now over.
The Lion sleeps tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, so I mean, we talked about this. We've said it before, right? About this Elkhart team. Not really, defensively, great. Offensively, just not putting up the numbers and, the success that they've been wanting to. And it's frustrating, to see not only, okay, they lost in the playoffs right now, but it's almost frustrating to see that the final score was 14-7 for me. I don't know, with Trayvon Curry, every time we've interviewed him after the game, it's always about the penalties and it's always about how they're they can't be a second half team. which are really, really good points to make. But it's frustrating to see, like, oh my gosh, like this team that was so close and they could have, put up more numbers against like a talented team like Fort Wayne Snyder. But like, it's interesting to see that that's how they go out. And it's, again, we've talked about them having struggles in the regular season and not really finding their strides in different aspects. But it's terrible to see like that's how their season ended for me.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't allow more than 3 touchdowns in a game all season.
Such a great defense.
Yeah, it was really good, and they're ranked in the top 10 of pretty much every defensive category. So, yeah, it is frustrating, and like, look, Snyder was a great defensive team as well. This wasn't like no one was taking the proverbial over in this game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The mythical over, I should say. But yeah, it was a great defensive battle, and you just kind of, it's a bummer when you see such a great defensive unit and the offense just in the bigger games, right? Like they scored 7 against Penn. They scored, like any team, like really, like you take away like 69 against Washington and 55 against Adams, like, the teams that had, a competitive team, they kind of struggled at times to score against them. So, it is what it is, and they'll regroup and learn from it. Obviously, they'll have a lot of talent to replace on defense next year, but, Cross Jones returns. He'll be a junior next year. He's a beast, like linebacker for them. So, just an unfortunate way to end it, but, such is life when you play in 6A, man. You got to be ready to play 6A. Like, they've got to find a way. No offense to Northridge, but they got to find a way to get a 6A team in that non-conference. Keeping Concord is probably a smart decision because Concord's a good 5A, consistently good 5A big program, but they've got to find a way to get a 6A team on their schedule week 2 just to see someone other than Penn, and that's it in a 6A game.
Exactly, because when you're at that level, like you said, it's just the consistency across the board,
or even like a Warsaw, someone like in the area, like a bigger 5A school, like someone like that. You got to see somebody before you start playing, because no disrespect to St. Joe and Marion and New Prairie, but they're 4A schools, 3A schools.
They're smaller schools.
You have to see a 6A team at least once,
a team built a team from a school that's like your school.
Right.
Exactly. Because when you get to that 6A level, it's like there's just so many kids in those schools that every team is going to have standout players.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if they might not have the best record, they're still going to have players that are at a really high level, just because when you have that many kids in a school, like there's going to be a great wide receiver, a great defensive end, so even the teams where you might overlook still have talented players that would be on your roster probably.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
So I think I was just, hoping to see more from Elkhart now in the postseason, hoping to see the kind of things come together, and for that not to be the result, it's just,
it's a bummer.
Yeah.
And if we want to take a look at the bracket, that's the bracket right there.
Look at that. So Sectional 1 and Sectional 2. Yeah, Battle of Fort Wayne on the bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah, Penn Crown Point is going to be, again, Crown Point's just really good, man.
They're one of those teams.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think it's a 7:30 start, by the way, not 7 over at Penn.
Yeah, just to keep in mind the brackets with the times and everything.
Like usually when it's Eastern time versus Central time zone, they go to 7:30 Eastern.
Exactly. So whatever times you see on this, we're not confirming those are the actual. Yeah, they're subject to change. We're not confirming those are the actual times, but these are the actual matchups.
Yes, those are the real matchups. I don't think anyone's challenging a result this week.
Well, I'm just saying. I was like,
Danville and Brebeuf.
I was like, the reason we're looking at this is for the game, not for the times. Like, check your local whatever. Like,
check your local listings.
Yeah, we'll check. We'll have. I guess we are the local listings.
You are the local listing, bro. I'm the local listing too.
It's Monday. We're gonna have the full times later this week.
Another Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
it's a tough game.
I mean, it's 6A, man. It's just like, look at this. This is 4 really darn good teams. I mean, Crown Point's 10-0. Penn is 8-2. Snyder is 8-2. Carroll is 8-2. Like that's 6A football. The weakest air quote team is 8-2 Penn. Like Jesus.
You get to this time of the year, it's just good.
So like Penn would be the favorite in 5A.
Yeah,
like, this one of them at least. Yeah,
it's just such a tough. But that's 6A football. Exactly.
Right. It's the biggest class for a reason. The big boys.
I know, but sorry. Just a quick question for Austin. I mean, obviously Penn going up against a talented team like Crown Point. What do you think Penn needs to do in order to like?
They need their star players to they need the dynamic athletes to be dynamic.
Yeah.
Like they need Bardo to have a big game. They need Cashin or Kellen Watson, whoever plays quarterback, to have a big game. They need Jaden Parker to have a big game. I think their defense will be there for them. Like, their defense has not been an issue really since early in the season. Like, it looked bad giving up 42 to Valpo and 27 to Mishawaka, but, they only gave up 7 to Elkhart. I know Elkhart hasn't been the best offensive team, but Penn has kind of settled in on defense, it feels like, and holding Lake Central to 7 points was nice to see as well. So they have to keep Crown Point to like 28 or less, and hope to God that their fast guys on the outside do fast guy things and like score.
Yeah.
Like so, it could be close. But yeah, it's
hopefully
that they need to hit big plays. Like it sounds like a cliche, but they need to hit like a 70-yard touchdown run or a 75-yard touchdown pass, like something to kind of shock them, and get them give Penn life and maybe put Crown Point on their back foot.
Of course. Well, let's go down to 5A where we had a couple more results last week. Warsaw beating Goshen 52-7.
Yep.
And then Concord still undefeated.
Still undefeated.
That's crazy.
38-21 over
them.
Fort Wayne North. So that
So-
sets up Warsaw at Concord.
That's a great
And that's
game.
another big, because Concord
Rematch.
barely won
28-24
in the regular season.
on
for now.
September 20th. I wrote it down.
There you go.
And they put up a fight.
Derek Gomez.
Warsaw.
Yeah, Derek Gomez scored with like 40 seconds left on a touchdown pass from Bo Brunner to win that game. I know Sabrina did a story on Jerron Thomas last week. Jerron Thomas promptly followed that up with 165 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns, 140 of those yards in the second half, by the way.
That's insane.
And then on defense, he recovered a fumble, he had a sack, and he had at least 2 tackles for loss.
Jeez.
Still putting up numbers in the postseason.
I don't want to jinx our darling Jerron Thomas here, but if they win, I might have said this already on the podcast. I don't know. Just
think you
making
have.
sure to avoid and not jinx them again.
Oh, maybe
if they
not.
win and they get another, like if they make a serious run, he's in the discussion for Mr. Football.
Wow.
I mean, he's a two-way
Yeah.
stud.
Maybe
That's what I'm saying,
And
yeah.
going to Purdue helps the cause.
Yeah.
Like being a Purdue, like it sounds dumb, but like people say, oh, Purdue recruit in-state, like
Yeah.
like So, but I mean, he's gonna have all the numbers. He will
Yeah.
have the numbers to put it up. And if you win a sectional championship, that is like a big helper. Like I
Of
looked
course.
it up earlier in the year. Like pretty much every Mr. Football has to win like a sectional championship or more to like be really in the discussion for it.
And especially an undefeated sectional champion.
Yes, if they
Yeah,
if they
literally.
and I know we've talked about it before, like, but they're going to have the hardest path possible, basically, to state. Like Fort Wayne North was a really solid team, and they gave them a good fight. Warsaw is really good. Lafayette Jeff is the favorite on the bottom of that bracket. They would have to go to Lafayette Jeff if they win. If Concord and Lafayette both win, Lafayette Jeff's undefeated, right? Maryville would likely be the semi-state opponent. They're ranked in the top 3 in 5A. Like,
Yeah, this is
it. Like this is like Jerron Thomas having a great first playoff game too helps his cause a lot. Like, not being said, Warsaw's really good, and when it was so close in the regular season, right? You kind of wonder, like, will Warsaw will have all the motivation in the world to win, right? So it should be a great game.
And
It should be a great. I mean,
Yeah.
we have so many great games on the schedule.
Yeah.
This is another one of them.
But this is
a great
definitely one of
game.
those ones I'm really sorry.
Yeah, this is a red. Get the red pen and circle this one because it's fantastic.
Of course.
I was just gonna say real quick about, you mentioned how I did the story on Jerron Thomas. Just
Yes.
real quick, he obviously, I asked him a question just about how him playing both sides of the ball, does that do anything for like the team's morale? Does it help like just the team's mindset? And he was like, I think so, because they see that I don't get tired. Like, I'm out there, I get back out there. So like I honestly think that that's like a way of helping the team's like just morale or just like performance as a whole, because like they want to do as good as Jerron's doing, or they're like, they know how well he's been doing on both sides of the ball, so it gives them a different sense of confidence. So I think even Bo Brunner talked about how that has helped him as well. So.
When your best player is your hardest worker,
That
right?
goes a long way.
Like
Go a long
coaches
way.
talk about that all the time.
Goes a long
like,
way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He
And
is their best player, and he plays the most snaps out of anybody on that team, and he's incredible. And so, but they're gonna need him for everything he's worth.
Oh, yeah.
This
Oh, yeah.
week to
Definitely.
beat Warsaw. Warsaw is really solid, and it's hard to beat a team twice. Like especially when they're very similar skill level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, another game we're going to be circling a lot. Let's go Class 4A. We talked about it a little
Michelle
already.
Northwood.
Yeah.
I know. We already talked about it.
We
Sorry.
talked about a little bit, but just, I mean,
I will be there, by the way. That will be at this one on
That'll
Friday
be a
night.
good one.
That's
This will be
one.
my game on Friday night. I actually have not seen Mishawaka in person since week 2, so I'd like to see him again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just
there you
worked
go.
out where I haven't seen that, like physically seen them with my own eyes since week 2. That was a good game for them. They beat Penn 27-7. But,
That was a good game, man.
yeah, I haven't seen Northwood since the Concord game, and they've had 3 different quarterbacks since then. So
It's like you don't even know.
yeah, I mean, again, 35-19 in the regular season. This is a Styles, clash. Like, obviously, Mishawaka runs that triple option, and I said earlier that I think they're the best team currently playing right now just because of who they've had to beat these first 2 weeks. Like, they've had no bye, obviously literally did not have a bye, but also like Northridge and Plymouth were not gimmies. Washington, a little easier of a victory for Northwood to start the postseason run. Then they had to earn it against St. Joe in overtime, but this is a great game.
It's Keith Kinder going up against
Nate
Andrews.
Andrews. Like the two of the when we've talked all year about like the programs you can just never count out, right? And like Northwood and Mishawaka are 2 of like the 5 or 6 that we put on that list. Mishawaka, Northwood, New Prairie, Penn, Concord for the most part, like historically is one of those you just cannot count them out. Like they're always going to be there. And Craig Kaler is a great coach. So this is 2 of them. Nate Andrews, just finds a way.
dogs.
Just finds a way. Mishawaka, they are playing very well. This is feels like it should be like a street fight. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be nasty. It's gonna be dirty. It's gonna be fun. Like should be a great game.
That should be I'm really excited for this
Me
one. Like you
too.
said, it's just the Northwood, like all the different quarterbacks. I mean, watching them this past week, it's incredible just to see the way they find ways to get it done in these games. Like, I mean, against that South Bend St. Joe, it was just kind of a gritty game, but they still felt like they were I was there for the first time. They still felt like they were in control of that football game. Even though the score might have been close, they had to go to overtime and everything. Northwood just felt like no matter what happened, even if they fumbled the ball or anything like that, they still were confident in themselves to have an answer. And I think against Mishawaka, where, they might break off a long run or 2, Northwood's not going to get scared by that, I don't think.
No.
And Northwood has the X factor if this game is close, and that is Dominic DeFreitas, the kicker.
Yeah.
He made a 42-yard
best
field
kicker.
goal, made a 42-yard field goal late to force overtime against St. Joe. Obviously has the state record from earlier, 62 yards. Like, if it's tight and it's down to the wire and it's like Northwood needs only a field goal to win, they've got a guy they feel comfortable in from 60.
That's what or just getting points on drives.
Right, in general, right.
Because, I mean, against Mishawaka, the game's going to slow down. There's not going to be as many possessions.
Right.
So when that becomes the case, they can kind of slow. Like, if there's limited drives, Northwood knows that they just need to get to, the 40-yard line?
Yeah, pretty much.
They need to get to the 40-yard line.
57-yard field goal, that 43-yard line.
That's what I mean. They need to get to the 43-yard line to be confident they can get points on the board for a drive.
Yeah.
That does not happen in high school ever.
No.
Right.
I compare him to the younger Brandon Aubrey. I'm like, okay, this kid is gonna be him one day.
Yeah. He's going to the All-American Bowl already. He got his jersey and everything, and
That's crazy.
He'll be kicking in college football, in the next couple of years for sure.
Of course.
And so he is an X factor if it comes down to at the end of the game. Mishawaka hasn't really needed a kicker all year because they kind of comfortably win a lot of their games, or it's just touchdowns back and forth. So.
Wouldn't that be something if that was the ending?
Oh, man.
That would be.
I'm gonna clip this and put it on Twitter after the game if this is if it comes down to DeFreitas.
That will have. We'll know that we're.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, staying in class for a New Prairie.
Whew.
They survived.
Gritty win.
That-
Talk about grit.
14.
Also, the cojones, New Prairie to score a touchdown and go for 2.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
How much there was? It was in the fourth quarter, right?
2 minutes left in the game.
Wow.
That's insane.
Hayden Scott runs it in, and they're like, "We're on the road. We're going for the win." And Reed Robinson punches in a 2-point run, and they beat Hobart. That takes a lot of guts to do that and not play for overtime.
Yeah.
So the old thinking, right, is if you're on the road, you go for the win, right?
Yeah,
At
of
home,
course.
you go for the tie. But that is big decision by Casey McKim, the head coach, and again, they have the guys to do it, right? They're the program. They're a program that just goes like they probably knew they were going for 2 as soon as they got the ball, right?
Yeah,
like there was
of
no
course.
doubt. Like we're going for 2, we're going for the win, and credit to them for doing that. It's a good team, man. New Prairie is good, but so is Hanover Central. Hanover Central, I was doing some research, looking at my notes.
There you go. Yep.
So Caden Verrett is probably going to be the biggest player for Hanover that New Prairie will need to slow down. Verrett 1,358 rushing yards, 24 touchdowns on the ground. And they also have a Bowen, Dylan Bowen, younger brother of Drake Bowen at Notre Dame.
There you go.
Really?
103 tackles and 5 interceptions.
Pretty good.
Yeah, he's going to probably be like a really good baseball player too. He's probably a better baseball player than a football player. And
Jeez.
I think I did see something about Drake going one of his games or something
yeah,
like that.
and so this is a rematch of the baseball regional from last year, Hanover Central New Prairie, where Reed Robinson and Dylan Bowen were key players in that game as well.
Yeah, you're like naming all these names and everything. I'm like, this sounds a lot like baseball.
Yeah, this game happened on June, whatever that was last year.
Yeah,
June
I remember
4th,
that.
Yeah. So yeah, Bowen versus Robinson once again. Like it's gonna determine this game is at New Prairie, by the way. So that's an advantage for them. It's a 7 p.m. Central start, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yep.
So that graphic is correct, but. This feels like the most toss. I mean, there's a lot of toss-up games on the board, but feels like the most toss-up of the toss-ups. Even like this is a true it could go either way. Hanover really hasn't been tested too much in this postseason, just based on their scores. Obviously, New Prairie got the biggest one of them last week against Hobart. This is a game that can go either way, in my opinion, and so it should be fun. Both teams that love to run the ball.
Yeah.
It's not triple option offense, but it's close enough.
And all I could think about when I saw that New Prairie go for 2 last week was Austin, when you and I went to New Prairie in the preseason and we were asking the team about, okay, you're a senior winning yet another sectional championship and kind of like having a career full of sectional championships.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, that's the goal. That's the mindset. They know how to achieve it. And I think you saw that last week. That's a program that has had success recently, that it gets down in the fourth quarter, and late in the fourth quarter in a big game on the road, they come back. Not only do they score, they get the 2-point conversion. That's the kind of experience taking over, and that's, I think, the biggest thing going to be for New Prairie heading into this week is that everyone on this roster, they've all been
They're
there.
going 4 for 4.
Yeah, they've all
going
been
4 for 4.
The seniors are going 4 for 4.
So
Everyone else is
Wendy's meal.
Yeah, everyone else has been there before. This is not. It's gonna be at home.
Right, you get a chance to win 4 in a row on your home field. That is huge.
It's just like they know what's happening. They've done this before. This is not anything new to them, and I think that's a huge thing when it gets to be this time of year. Even if maybe you only won your last game by a point, it's like you still have that confidence coming into this week.
Yeah, this will be a great game. We're gonna sound like a broken record. This will be a great game.
Yeah. Want to go to Class 3A now?
Let's do it, baby.
Let's do it.
There we go. We're gonna take a look. So
another great game,
Marion.
man. My God, you want to talk about an adrenaline ride for the last 3.5 quarters? Jimtown Marion. That was where I was at Friday night. It was like I made a couple comparisons to this, like what this game felt like that I probably can't say like on on this, but that was
forth.
crazy game.
A lot of emotion too with this game.
Yeah, like just like Jimtown, like Marion goes down, scores, Jimtown runs the kick back. Jimtown gets an onside kick later in the game. Like Marion went up 14-7, and the next time they had the ball, they were down 21-14 or 20-14. Like it was crazy, and and then we get into the third quarter, and Marion gets a big stop, and then on the next offensive play, Jack D-roll, really good. I mean, broke his leg in five different places. It was very sad to see that.
Terrible.
Had to call an ambulance to take him to the hospital. So you had this moment that kind of reset the game again, right after halftime, and kudos to Marion. They made so many big plays. They had big touchdown runs, big passes down the field. Mitch Fimble to Deuce Owens was just the favorite combo the whole game. Brian Osmond had 3 touchdown runs.
He had a great.
Yeah,
I think we talked about that as well. We've seen him do good in the regular season, but for him to have that performance here in the postseason, his best game. It's really cool.
And it was crazy. He ran a 61-yard touchdown run with a minute and a half but it actually was probably the bad thing to do because he should have gone down.
Exactly, go down just end the game.
Yeah, it came down to the final play then because Jimtown, it was crazy. Mason Armstrong completed this crazy pass to Ty Zartman. They had a 3rd and 17 at one point, and they got a 10-yard gain and then a 7-yard gain to get the first down, which set up the final play with 3 seconds left. And when the ball was on target, it was going to be caught by Javen Jackson, but Cooper Seuth knocked it out of his hand at in the last second, and that's the game. And just wild. It was in like Mad Max Fury Road when they're driving and it's like crazy, like, you know, like the scenes where they're like, you know, and it's like all the people are yelling and it's crazy and it's like loud noises. Like that was the entire game. That's the entire game. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Just going back and forth. I mean, awesome. And it's just looking at this bracket. I mean, it's because that was kind of a toss-up game we talked about coming into this. We thought they would match up. We thought that could be a possible matchup right there. I mean, but then when it came down to it, who do we pick? But all of us were kind of like, maybe
Marion.
Yeah, maybe Marion. But I could see Jimtown.
At home? Sure.
We just kind of all were like, okay, like we'll go with that. But I mean, gutsy win from Marion to keep their season going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now they get to play Knox, who doesn't hide what they like to do on offense.
No, they just run that football.
They have 29 pass attempts on the season. I looked it up.
Wow.
Miles McLaughlin, 2,402 rushing yards, 37 touchdowns.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
still the tops.
And he's a junior.
That's the tops in the state,
Yeah,
right?
he's a
Okay.
Yeah, he's a junior.
I know he's been leading the state for most of the year now. That sounded like a state leading number.
It's a two-headed monster. Him and then Jake Conroy, a senior.
Yes.
1,536 yards, 24 touchdowns.
That's insane.
Everyone else on the offense is there. Like they're there to block for Conroy and
So is that almost 4,000 rushing yards? Did I do the math?
That is, yes. 3,938
wow.
rushing yards.
Everyone else is just like,
And
we'll do the rest, I guess.
61 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's
They've legitimately scored all of their there's two other people that have one touchdown. This is what they do.
That's so
Russ
exactly.
Radke is not trying to hide what they're trying to do, and so obviously corralling them as much as humanly possible is the key on defense. Put 10 guys in the box and pray. So.
But if Brian Osmond can have the
Right, Marion's got offensive firepower. This is a game that feels like it's going to be, 35-34 or whatever. Very similar to Marion Jimtown. Should be going back and forth. Depends on how if the Marion passing game plays how they did last week, with Vimble throwing dimes to Deuce Owens. Not just Deuce Owens, but other guys got involved too. D-Roll before he got injured. Obviously, D-Roll's not going to play this week, but the Terrence Lane had a big catch in the game. They had other guys step up in the passing game. That's going to be, I think, the biggest key is can Marion throw the ball as well as it did against Jimtown? If they do, they have a chance to win this game. Not that they're a huge underdog. This is closer to a pick'em than a heavy favorite, I would say. Mm-hmm. But Marion's going to have a better chance to win if they can throw the ball the way they did last week.
That makes sense. Yeah. And now let's keep it moving. How about we do that? We still got plenty more to get to. Class 2A.
We're trying to go as fast as we can.
Not our speed or anything, but Bremen right here.
Yeah.
Bremen getting to the sectional championship game. Bremen, a team we've kind of talked about all season long.
Taking care of business.
Exactly, taking care of business, and at times having some, good. I don't even say surprising, but just results that are this is a very solid team.
The Knox win definitely changed everything for their season.
That's what I mean. Is that kind of changed. This went from being a solid team to a team that a sectional championship is a possibility.
They're live.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out Tyrus Graverson. Gravity Graverson. Gravity
We found out his
Graverson.
mom
Graverson.
told us how to pronounce his name.
Someone did. I forgot.
I thought you said his
Mom, Dad. I forgot. It was someone named Marty. I think it's a guy, but you never know.
Oh, okay. Someone did.
Tyrus Gravity Graverson. He defies gravity. How about that?
Tyrus Gravity Graverson. I like that.
Mr. 3,000. He reached the 3,000 receiving yards club.
Wow.
For his career, not the season career.
Yeah, but still, that's
3,039 for his career.
Yeah.
He's in the top 25 all time in state history.
Jeez.
So congratulations to him on getting that.
Yes.
I burned my feature story on him 2 weeks too early, I guess. I should have saved it for this week.
Yeah, he's.
But yeah, he's fantastic. Statistically, when you look at Andrean, nothing pops off the page necessarily, but they played such a harder schedule. These teams are both 7-4, but Andrean's 7-4 is probably worth a little more than Bremen's 7-4, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. The big thing for Andrean that I noticed, at least that's the one stat that really did, I guess, pop off the page. Only one. They have 26 sacks as a team, which is I think a pretty big number for high school.
Yeah.
And
That
11
is-
games.
yeah,
11
that is-
games. They have 2 or 3 guys that have at least 3 sacks. So
That's big.
keeping Silas Leidig upright will be Bremen's biggest key to this game.
Mm-hmm.
If they could do that and they can let him operate how he's done on offense the last couple of weeks with a healthy Tyrus Graverson, they've got a decent chance. Andrean's the favorite, and the game is at Andrean, but Bremen is definitely not they're gonna roll over and die. I don't anticipate this being a blowout necessarily.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be closer than maybe the casual fan thinks when they see Andrian, in the bracket. So
Right.
And I mean, and you mentioned right there, like, keeping Leidig upright just so you can get it to Gravity Graverson.
Gravity Graverson.
Gravity Graverson, just so you get it to Gravity Graverson.
Yeah.
Like that's, I mean, usually in high school football, like we're talking about a lot of these teams running the football, keep it on the ground. Well, we don't have many very, dynamic wide receivers like Graverson.
Yeah.
So when you have that, you're all of a sudden talking about a game almost like from a college perspective of, okay, keep the quarterback upright, allow Graverson to get downfield, allow him to gain that separation. And if that's not the case and they're still getting pressure, quick bubble screens at the outside. Just get him the football on the outside and you can make the plays.
Feels like you're going to have at least 3 to 5 like jump balls basically for him.
Yeah.
Like, just throw one, forget it. He's down there somewhere.
Yeah,
Right?
Let
just
him
throw it up.
Just throw it down there.
let
See
your
what
best
happens.
player make some plays.
Yeah.
Oh, are we talking about our play of the night or?
Do we have a play of the night?
We actually did have a play of the night.
We did
You
have
wanted
a play, but it was
That was going to be
sorry.
yeah, it's a
LaVille.
different one. We were about to go down to
Sorry.
Class 1A
Sorry.
anyways.
Sabrina
wants it, so we're giving it to Sabrina. We're going down to
All-star.
Class 1A.
Yeah,
LaVille, it's going to be LaVille versus North
Sabrina.
Judson, but LaVille had
the longest
play from scrimmage
in school history, right?
in school
99
history.
yards.
Yes.
And as we were talking about this on air, he still hadn't made it into the end zone.
Yeah, there you go.
By the time we were done, we were like, wait, he's still not in there yet.
That's like 99 and a half. My gosh. If you go from where he threw the ball, it was 109 yards.
That's what I mean. Like it's
he almost stepped out of bounds.
yeah, it was
North Newton.
Xavier
North
Lefebvre,
Newton, my
right?
God. Like,
Is that what you said, Jackson's?
yeah,
Xavier
Collins Arnecki to
yeah.
Xavier Lefebvre.
Collins
It was
Arnett. So, hey, LaVille, congratulations.
Yes.
You have the longest play in school history. I mean, go back to the play one more time. I
You
want
wanna go back to the
to
play?
see his back foot.
I'm trying to.
Like,
Oh, yeah,
he is
it
so
is
close
close.
to stepping
It was
out.
close. Like,
Close.
That
he
was
is-
almost a Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah,
that
it really
almost
was.
a Dan Orlovsky.
Except it
but-
was the exact opposite. Like,
Yeah,
and then it's the exact
result.
opposite of what you could think of Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad they had that.
Yes.
Because they're running into
Here
one
we
of
go.
the best teams
Yeah, North Judson.
in the state.
So I looked up some North Judson stats.
Okay,
Yeah, this
here
is
we
the best
go.
way to put
I
it.
wanted to look it up because we've been talking about how great they are, and they are. Look at them. You can just see 71 to 20 and 58-0.
Those are just
That's insane.
They are first in the state in points per game at 57 per game, and they allow the third fewest points a game at 6. That 47.8 differential, I don't know if that's the right math, but their 47.8 differential is first in the state. They have 3 guys who have 16 plus rushing touchdowns. Again, they don't try to hide what they're doing. They're going to run the ball right at you, and good luck. Cole Wilcox leads that with 1,492 yards and 30 touchdowns. This is one of the best
Tall
1A.
task.
Yeah. LaVille, I'm happy for them. They got the 6-5 right now. They will not have a losing record on the season. This is tough. They
Yeah.
have played North Judson the closest this year, or second closest, 32-8. Yeah.
yeah. This is
This is the best 1A team that the North has had since Pioneer with Kaiser. Wow. I can confidently say that. Adams Central's had some great teams the last couple of years, don't get me wrong, but the way that North Judson is just absolutely dominating everybody and like they have those numbers and their starters haven't played like in half, you know.
They play
when's
half
the last
the
time
game.
their starters played the second half?
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
I'm trying
exactly.
to say. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, they have backups just getting in and, you know, running out the clock. Like, they're incredible. They're incredible. And LaVille, again, they took care of business. They won 2 very winnable games, here in the sectionals, and credit to them for taking care of that business. And that 108-yard play is really cool. 99 yards, I know officially.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
109 yards unofficially is really cool, but it is North Judson's to lose.
Yes.
Some crazy stuff will have to happen, I think, if LaVille wins on Friday.
Of course. Well, now let's go up to Michigan for our last couple practice. Take a look at. Let's go up
Yeah,
to.
this is a. I'm not 100% confident on these teams, so
Yeah.
you go.
Okay, so St. Joseph, we've seen them all year long, just been kind of dominant, been really good, beating a Lakeshore team right there.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about Zeeland West, I'm going to be honest,
Well,
because
they beat their counterparts from the East.
exactly.
There we go, 32
So, but I had to give it a shout out to St. Joseph. It just seems like this is a team that, you know, now in the district final, that just like they've kind of had that year. They've been having this kind of season where all year long they've just been winning. They've just been
Yeah.
taking care of business. Every single week it's constantly like, okay, St. Joseph wins this, St. Joseph wins that. It just feels like this is a team that should be good enough to win a district final game.
Yeah, and it's at home too. That helps their cause, right? So
Exactly.
And like I don't know where Zeeland West is at. They're west of Zeeland East. That's all I got.
Yeah, I know a little bit about St. Joseph. I do not know much about Zeeland West.
Sorry, that was so lame.
West to Zealand East.
All right. So let's just go up to Division 4. Why don't you? This is our 16 Sports Extra game of the week.
Ooh.
Niles hosting Edwardsburg. I mean,
should be a fun one, man.
I always want to hear a little bit more about this one from your perspective, Austin, because you were there the last time these two teams matched up earlier this season, right?
Yeah, and again, like Edwardsburg in that game had like 6 turnovers. They had 3 in the second half. Edwardsburg, got the ball, start the second half. They drive down the field, they fumble, like in the 20-yard line. Niles then gave it right back to him, basically. Like it was like Niles went up 21-7 midway through the second quarter, and it was almost as if they kind of forgot how to play football the rest of the game. Like they just didn't execute well on offense. They were kind of careless a little bit. They went for they did a fake punt that was like, why? Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just kind of weird. But Edwardsburg didn't really capitalize on any of that. They they recovered an onside kick and then they immediately turned the ball over the next play. And then Niles threw it right to Edwardsburg on that play after. It was just like there were so many turnovers in the game. It felt weird, but Niles found a way to win. It ultimately helped them win the conference championship. So it's a rematch. It's at Niles this time, not Edwardsburg. So in theory, advantage Niles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Edwardsburg, I think they have to feel like, hey, if we just clean up the mistakes, we can win this game. Like we can beat them. They're not in. Last year, Niles felt kind of invincible with how they kind of rolled through everybody in the area up until the regional game. Niles has looked slightly more mortal, air quote, in the they took care of Paw Paw twice, but they were beating them 49-0 last year instead of 42-14. I know it's semantics, but it's like Niles is not this unstoppable juggernaut that's just going to dominate everybody. And Edwardsburg knows that they can at least go pound for pound with them. So I think this is another close game. Maybe 10 points is 14 points margin. 14 or less is probably the margin I think of this game, but. I still lean Niles, but Edwardsburg for sure has a chance. With the way those two teams run their offense, whoever is efficient enough with their triple option offense, picking up first downs, that will win the game.
Of course.
And I haven't even seen these two teams play in person, so I'm excited for that.
Are you going to that? Yeah, it should be fun. It's a game of the week. I guess she will be there.
Yeah, she'll be there. Yeah. I mean, and it just not, and just seeing Niles, seeing Edwardsburg, it's these are just two teams. You're right. It's Niles does look like they're definitely the team coming into this game. They're the favorite. They're at home also as well. Yeah. But you're right, with Edwardsburg, there's still that this is not insurmountable.
No, absolutely not. And it's I don't want to do the Mishawaka Plymouth comparison, but Plymouth in that regular season game against Mishawaka, it was 14-10, then they had some turnovers.
And then all of a sudden,
got away.
Yeah, a game gets away from you.
Edwardsburg Niles didn't get away from Edwardsburg. They were driving with a chance to win the game. They threw an interception with a minute left in that end of the game. But it's very similar where Plymouth at least mentally could be hey, we can play with Mishawaka. Now Mishawaka came out obviously and took care of business this week, but Edwardsburg at least knows in their mind, hey, we can compete with Niles. They're not some foreign team that we've never seen or we don't know. We went shot for shot with them basically the entire game. If we just don't fumble the ball at the 25-yard line twice, we got a chance to win this. They would have won that game. So
that should give them more motivation now playing them again. So
and Niles, I'm sure too, is kicking themselves for how they played against Edwardsburg as well. Their team, I think, left that field feeling super great about how they played. Oh yeah. Obviously Niles won, so they're happy, but they weren't thrilled. They weren't doing cartwheels, and you know what I mean. So they're both going to be motivated to play better. Against each other. So it should make for a fun game.
And then finally, let's go up to just Division 5 here. Berrien Springs beating Dowagiac 14-6. So a close win there for the Shamrocks, now getting to play Kalamazoo Hackett Catholic Prep. Yeah. I think Berrien Springs played them earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was back in week 1, I want to say.
Well, that's good prep, right?
Yeah, and it was...
Start and end your season with the same team, potentially.
Exactly. Right? Well, you don't want to end it with the same team.
Kalamazoo Hackett Prep will be done with Berrien.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but just looking at the Berrien Springs game, beating Dowagiac, Berrien Springs, they were able to make a couple big plays, interception, couple long throws, and that proved to be the difference. But again, for Berrien Springs, good win there to get to the district final, hoping that they can get a win as well, so we can have a couple teams maybe alive moving on in Michigan.
Michigan, man, they just it's you get rewarded for your regular season too. You get to like host,
That's what I mean.
playoff games.
Yeah,
It's great. It's a beautiful system. I'm pulling up that week 1 game, by the way. I want to see if they played. Now I'm curious.
Now
Is
you're
it?
curious.
Are you gonna fact check me? I think
They lost 14-20.
that's what I want to say. It was a
I
close.
said 14, but that's still a loser of me. 20-14.
20-14.
Kalamazoo Hackett Prep beat Berrien Springs 20-14 in
Yep.
week 1 in
that's-
Kalamazoo. So we're going back to where it all started for Berrien
I was going to
Springs.
say,
So
that's
you want to keep your season going? Get the revenge.
I mean,
good.
yes. And then,
There's a lot of rematch games going on, which
Exactly.
is good.
Yeah, obviously, when you play in teams from their same area, by
Yeah.
default, you're going to see them probably in the playoffs if you're the same, size, right? Like the only teams that don't really get automatic rematches in the playoffs are like Penn when they play in the region teams. Elkhart had to play the Fort Wayne teams, right? Like so. But yeah, Edwardsburg Niles, Concord Warsaw, Mishawaka Northwood.
Which is good because if you lose to them in the regular season, it's like, hey, we'll see them again later on. You know what I mean?
Right. We have at least 3 off the top of my head that just rattled off.
Yeah.
There's probably a couple of them LaVille North Judson is a rematch.
Yeah.
Triton and North Miami, which we gotta give them a little love. Give Triton a little love there. They're in the 40 sectional 43 Class 1A final.
There you go.
That's a rematch. So yeah, there's a lot of kind of fun games that are going to be intriguing to follow, and it's the beauty of postseason football.
And then speaking of postseason stuff, Austin, I understand that the rest of the fall schedule is
We're done.
kind of wrapped up.
Yeah, deep sigh of relief on Sunday. No offense to the volleyball teams, but like it was nice picking up Sunday knowing I don't have to chase high school sports too much, at least this week. But yeah. We'll start with girls soccer state final. Marion drops a heartbreaker in penalty kicks to Lawrenceburg. Marion had a goal taken away early in the second half. It was suspects call it best. It was just tough to see Marion score the goal. Mm-hmm. You have Lawrenceburg players like hands in their face, basically crying that they gave up a goal early in the second half. No one on Lawrenceburg reacted as if it was offsides. Usually when they think it's offsides, people are like, hey, it was offsides.
Yeah, exactly.
No one on Lawrenceburg did, yet they called offsides. It was just so frustrating to see the ball go in. Marion kind of started celebrating, and then they blow the whistle and they're waving the flag for offsides. And it's like, and then you look at the replay, because the IHSCA, they have the state finals broadcast there, and they're at, where the Indy 11 play, where IU Indianapolis play. So they have a scoreboard, and everyone turns their head to the right to look at the scoreboard, and you could see on the replay that she was definitely not offsides. Like it was, it's like negligent. Like if she was, it was maybe like her fingernail.
It's when they do the VAR, like in professional soccer, and it's like
and
the guy's like forehead is maybe a little bit in front.
Right. So here's if I can petition to the IHSAA.
Yeah.
Why don't we have a replay or a challenge system in the state finals at least? I'm not saying give these coaches unlimited challenges like we need like an NBA game where we're down the stretch and every third play is stopped because of this. Yeah. But we have the cameras there. The IHSCA has their broadcasting state finals crew there. They have it on the billboard, the scoreboard for everyone to see, right? Like the replays. Like why don't we have it in place just for the state finals where each coach gets one challenge. You can get one challenge. That's even if you win it, you don't get another one. Like that's it. You get one challenge, nothing else. To at least let that call directly affects everything that happens the rest of the game. Marion scored. They scored, and they get it taken away from them because of a call that was very suspect, very questionable at best. And now they're sitting here. And, they had this incredible senior class go 4 years in a row, or, go 4 years where they were state runner-up, semi-state, and now they're state runner-up. If they win and cap that off with a state championship, we talk about them differently. You know what I mean? Not that we're taking away nothing. They still had an incredible 4-year run, but when you win a state title, you get remembered, right? You know what I mean? Forever. Your name's in the programs, and, And it was 2 seniors that did that play. Daisy Moody passed it to Quinn Pankevich, and it's a beautiful play, and it should have counted, and it didn't. And if you had a challenge, an ability to challenge the play, Henry Vu would have challenged that play.
Yeah,
and we could have at least looked at the broadcast and seen we had the goal line. The goal line was there. They did that play on purpose at the goal line so we could help the referee basically say, don't get offsides. Quinn Pankevich is a half step in front of the line. The Lawrenceburg defender is on the line. So, like, they should have called, like, that should not have been called. It's a beautiful pass by Moody, wide open in front of the net, goal, and it got taken away. And why not have a challenge system in place of some sorts? Just one. I'm not saying again, like, you need 3 or 4.
And just because it's a state final.
It's a state final. You want the best
is
team to win. You don't want it to come down to a questionable call. Like, all we're talking about up here is, man, the referee kind of blew that. And, like, look, the referee made, 9, like, he made correct calls pretty much the rest of the game. Like, I was there, and, like, I watched it, and he made the right call every other time. But you can't have the one that cost you a goal, that cost the game, that cost Marion a state championship.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, and I like the idea, and especially if there's already, like, it's on the
That's
scoreboard.
my soapbox. Like, I just had to get, like, it's just
No, and it's
Of course.
hard for
it's
the-
frustrating. I haven't stopped texting Henry Vu about it for 3 days. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, just come on. Like, it was so painful to, like, see it. And it's just like every angle. Like, we have the technology. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we should be able to, I don't know, just have some sort of system in place.
And it's hard for the seniors, right? Because you feel for them. They had such a great season,
Right. And credit to Lawrenceburg, like, they won the PKs.
Right.
Like, their goalie made 2 really awesome saves.
Like they did. Yeah.
And they played good enough defense the rest of the way to not let Marion score. Marion had a couple other chances to potentially score. Lawrenceburg had chances to score too. Marion
and
stopped
even if
them,
Marion scores, you can always come back and they can always come back and tie it. Like,
if that goal counts, there's 38 minutes still left in the game, and Lawrenceburg could easily have scored.
You'd imagine Lawrenceburg starts to press more. You would imagine they so it's a different, but
it changes the whole dichotomy of the game.
It's a much different game from that point.
Yeah, it was just frustrating, like, to see. It's like one thing if she didn't get the shot off, right?
Yeah.
You see the goal go in. You saw it go in.
You saw the play.
Yeah,
you saw it completely happen. That is
great season though for Marion.
So incredible season.
Heck of a run. And just very unfortunate that it ends that way, where you're kind of having some controversy.
Yeah.
Hate to see that. Well, we hope we have no controversy with football sectional championships.
Shout outs to volleyball, by the way, too. Oh, by the way, big shout out cross country.
Oh,
we had, if you go by the broader northern Indiana, including west, like, basically from St. Joseph County over to the Ohio state line. We had the 2nd place, 4th place, 6th place, and 8th place finisher in the boys race.
Wow.
On Saturday. Westview's Noah Bontrager was 2nd.
A lot of great runners.
14:51, and he got 2nd. That is insane. Like, that's less than 5 minutes a mile.
Yeah, that's
insane. He didn't
That's
win.
an insane number.
Liam Bauschke was 4th, 15:08 from Mishawaka. Baylor Miller ran the fastest time in Northridge history, got 6th at state. Wow. And then Max Malloy, Elkhart, was 8th. Like, just an incredible run, literally, by all 4 of them. Northridge boys finished 4th as a team at state. That is their best finish since 2007. They are one of the best programs kind of historically in the state. They've always are in the mix. They won the state title in 2004. So for them to kind of get back to that throne of, like, getting on the podium at state was really cool to see. 5th place. And they got, most of their team coming back next year, so they're going to be in the mix for sure, the next couple of years. So kudos to four boys getting all state honors, and then Penn girl Shariah Nae. I hope I said that right. I know how to spell it now, so that's good. 13th individually as a freshman. Wow. As a freshman, incredible. Penn finished 6th as a team, girls in the standing. So remarkable. I mean, we had been good all year. We had some good athletes, obviously. I don't think I saw that coming this weekend.
Yeah, that's an incredible.
That was a really impressive performances all across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Liam Bauschke ran 15:08. Like, most years that wins.
Yeah,
state. Wins state most years, and he's 6th or 4th, and it's like just crazy.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah, and then volleyball also wrapped up this weekend. Northwood, painfully close. Got to the semi-state final. Got to a 5th set. It was tied 11-11 in the 5th set, and Angola scores the next 4 points to win the set, win the match. Angola's got a huge hitter, though. Maya Harris, she's going to Illinois for volleyball. Her sister is the setter, Ava Harris, going to Villanova.
Oh, wow.
So 2 big D1 players for them. They're not going to probably beat Roncalli. Roncalli is like a top 5 team in the country right now, but like...
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's tough. That's a tough matchup.
But they have a puncher's chance. But anyway, Northwood, just tough, man. There's a senior group that, won 3 straight regionals. They won 4 sectionals in a row. They got their semi-state final for the first time ever. Just a tough way to end. You're so close, painfully close to going to state. Even if it was to lose to Roncalli in 3 sets, like you're still going to state, like it's a great experience. So just tough for them. And then, Penn ran into Hamilton Southeastern, who then HSE lost to Fort Wayne Carroll. That was actually kind of an upset on Saturday night in 4A. And Jimtown's remarkable season ended against Woodland. So tough endings all around for volleyball, especially Northwood just being so close. But yeah, that's it for the fall sports season except football and girls basketball.
Starting up
Monday. They're games start Monday night. Mishawaka at Riley. Some games later in the week. Tuesday and Thursday are like the busier days of the week.
Jeez, well,
for this year.
It's here.
Can't believe it.
Washington girls basketball is all I'm going to say. Watch out. This is a this might be it. This might be the end of an era potentially. The last, hoorah! They got the 3 Division I kids: Kira Reynolds, Purdue; Monique Mitchell, Akron; and Raya Wilson at Winthrop. To go to Winthrop, 3 seniors. The entire team back from last year.
Be a good team.
They're going to be like the main story, like the headline for the whole season is can South Bend Washington get back to the state finals? They won it in 3A 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now. This is going to be fun. They're going to be fun to watch. They have obviously a lot of big games on their schedule. And they've won like 40 games in a row in the conference. Can they keep that going? Penn will be their biggest challenge in the NIC. So, there's a lot of
good storylines right now.
Yeah, we'll get more into that later, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. But I just want to throw South Bend Washington a little bone. Like, I'll throw them a bone. Hey,
exactly.
Don't they open up Thursday at home against Goshen? So
when that background changes from that football to a basketball, we'll get more into that. We'll have plenty of plans for basketball season. Well, thank you so much for checking out this episode of 16 Sports Extra here with Austin from the South Bend Tribune. You can check out all his work throughout the week, all his content he's going to have coming out.
Girls wrestling,
just
starts this week too. Yeah,
everything. You go to high school sports, he has it. And then Sabrina and I, of course, with 16 Sports Extra on Friday night at 11:15, we'll have a big sectional final. And from there, a recap. And then from there, just depending on how much teams are left, we're just going to keep on covering the teams.
Guaranteed at least one Indiana and one Michigan team.
There you go. All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for watching.